Hi, and welcome to the second part of Storykit Academy. The first one was about building a video strategy, and you can find that webinar on storykit.io/academy. You can find it recorded. Today, we're going to talk about storytelling in a social world, and this is a subject I really love. And we're going to talk about how to use video and data to tell these stories. But I need to start a storytelling webinar by telling a story, of course. And it's going to be about this guy, Steve Jobs. In 1994, he entered a break room and was doing a sandwich for himself. And he just bursted out in, who is the most powerful person in the world? And a guy who was sitting there, Thomas Higbee, who has told this story on internet, he answered, well, Nelson Mandela. And Steve Jobs went, no, the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation that is to come. That was Steve Jobs' words, and we all know what happened. He became one of the best storytellers in the world with Pixar and with Apple. And the question we need to ask ourselves then, if the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world, who is a storyteller really? And the unfortunate answer to this question is that few people view themselves as storytellers. Me, I have a background as a journalist, and my husband does that too. And we talked about it the other day, and he was like, no, I wouldn't consider myself a storyteller. That's like something that is an epithet reserved for authors, Oscar-winning scriptwriters, or praised journalists. But I would disagree. I would say that you are a storyteller, because everyone has stories to tell. And this is something that we really, really believe in at Storykit. We believe that everyone is a storyteller, and we believe that storytelling is important because stories can change the world. But we know that the knowledge of how a powerful story is told is limited to the few. Not everyone knows how to do this. So this is why we give you the tools, the community, and the insights to tell these stories. Just a short thing about Storykit. So we call ourselves the #1 video tool for storytellers. We came to life in spring 2018. You can find us at more than 400 companies on every department, and we have users all over the world. And who am I? My name is Jonna Ekman, and I'm a storyteller in my heart. I started my journey as a journalist and has been telling stories for all of my life. And I have realized that stories can be great wherever they come from. And today we're going to talk about two things. Which stories should we tell? How do we find these stories? And how do we tell them? That's the second thing. But first, okay, so Steve Jobs said that the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. But why is storytelling so important? Well, because it evokes emotions and it sticks to our memories. This is because our brains are hardwired to remember stories. It also put things in context. We have all this information society where we get bits and pieces from everywhere, and stories can put these bits and pieces in a context and make them more understandable. Storytelling can also create relationships. I mean, we all have relationships to our favorite authors or to our favorite movie makers or our favorite artists because they're telling stories that evokes emotions in us. And of course, it's perfect in a world of fast, bite-sized communication because it grabs our attention. And this is important in marketing simply because we base our purchase decisions on emotion much more often than we do on reason, even if we don't want to admit it. Doesn't matter if we choose a pair of shoes or if we're buying a new cool SaaS product for a company, the emotions will be in play, and it's important to be there with the stories. Since this is a video company, I have to mention why video is so good for social storytelling. Well, first of all, video sparks emotions. I mean, if our brains are hardwired to listen to stories, to watch stories play out in front of us is even bigger. Video is also easy to remember. They say that an average viewer retains 95% of a message if it's in a video form. Something happened here? Yeah. So it's also easy to consume. Once again, the brain. Visuals are often processed up to 60,000 times faster than text. And it's also perfect for social because videos consumed in a whole, it's easy to share and you never leave the platform watching it. It's also consumed quietly. Also, video is accessible. It's easy to look at a video, even if you are in a hurry, or if you're carrying a baby on your arm, or if you're sick. You maybe don't want to read a long text, but you can watch a video. And also, video forces the sender to truly prioritize their messaging. And this is so important in the world that we're living in right now, because we have a society where everything moves so fast. And if you take too much time, no one will listen. But let's start with go on with this first thing we're going to talk about today. Which stories should I tell? And ask ourselves, what is a story? Many people think that a 10-second video can't be a story, or that a Facebook post, that's not a story. And that's the wrong way to think, because everything can be a story. Some people say that this is the shortest story ever written. For sale, baby shoes never worn. It's 6 words. They think that Ernest Hemingway wrote this, but we're not quite sure. But the 6 words evokes emotions, it creates pictures in our heads, and we will remember them because something happens when we read this sentence. And if a 6-word sentence can be a story, then a 10-second video or a 30-second video or a Facebook post can definitely be a story. But where do you find these stories? I meet so many companies that say, we don't have any stories to tell. Everything that we do is so boring. And it's not true, because every company, every person has amazing stories to tell. You just need to look where to find it. You just need to know where to look. So I'm going to give you some examples where to look. First of all, look at the things you're already doing. You're probably doing blog posts and reports, and you're writing press releases. You're doing information on your products and your services. You are interviewing your CEO, or at least talking to him on a regular basis. You have internal information. You're probably producing FAQs and so on and so forth. Every company is producing so much already. And when I meet companies that say that they don't have any stories, I often ask them, go to a boring company, a boring company, and look at their first page, the landing page, the home page, and try to find 4 or 5 video ideas on their page. And everyone finds amazing video ideas on that page, because it's so easy to see them when you're looking at someone else's things. But go back to your own homepage and just look. You will find so many stories to tell. Also, look within your organization. You have new hires. You have colleagues that's been around for a while that have so much to tell. You can talk about your successes. You can talk about your challenges. People love to know what was difficult and how did you solve them. Talk about what happens behind the scenes. But when you tell stories from within your organization, make sure to always ask yourselves, is anyone outside our organization really interested in this? Because otherwise this might happen. So this is my absolute favorite meme account at the moment, Working Social, is said, please follow if you want a good laugh. So this would be the behind the scenes from my work, just laying in the bed with my computer and just doing everything at once. So when you're doing things from within your company, think twice. The other thing you need to do is to find your why. If you haven't watched the Simon Sinek video where he talks about finding your why, just Google it and watch it, and you will never look back. Because finding your way and the feeling that you want to convey to your audience, you will find so many stories there. You can talk about your mission, and you can talk about your vision. And you can do that in a way that your audience will find it interesting. You have loads of stories there. Another place to look is to listen to the competition. So do they have ideas we can steal? Or do they have ideas that we should avoid? That's even better. Have they noticed a trend that we are missing, or can we challenge what they are saying? This is a place where you can get so much inspiration because they're thinking about the same things that you are, and you can address them in a good way. You should, of course, talk to your customers. Please talk to your customers. You can do case studies. You can connect with them through stories. And one thing that you should do is use their words, because the way your customers describe you will be the best way to describe you. So find your stories among your customers. And of course, listen to your audience. But we're going to talk much more about that. So we'll get back to this. So when you're looking for your stories, should you use your gut feeling or should you use data? Well, of course, gut feeling is a good place to start, but the gut feeling can also show us the wrong way. So we have made throughout the years, since we gather so much data, we've helped a couple of companies to do pretty huge content audits to look at their data and see what it's saying about their storytelling. The biggest thing we've done is with the Times and the Sunday Times, who wanted to increase digital subscribers with content data because they wanted to know what content should we create to convert our readers to subscribers. This was a very clear goal. So we did a huge content audit with our data. They hired 8 freelancers for 3 months who tagged 1,000 articles per section, which amount to 15,000 articles. That's a lot of articles, with 16 pieces of metadata like tonality, context, etc. Things that an experienced editor knows about the content, but the data doesn't know if you don't tell them. And we plotted this against 10 engagement metrics like page views and of course conversion and a lot of other things. So why did they do this? Well, as Tanith Evans, who is the head of audience at the Times and the Sunday Times, said, that there were a lot of broad brushstrokes, like features do well that don't do anything with the newsroom. And what they also saw was that there was a lot of legacy. Someone said 10 years ago that we should be creating content like this, and that's why they did it. But they wanted to know, what should we actually do? If we don't trust our gut feeling, what should we actually do? And the results after the content audit was that the paying digital only subscribers for the Times and the Sunday Times rose with 19%. That's a lot. Despite cutting their stories with 15%. So they were telling less stories, but they were telling the right stories. So today they can more easily prioritize which types of articles they should focus on. So that's just me showing you that this actually has effect, looking at the data of the content. But we have done this for ourselves and a lot of other companies, and we have millions of data points, and they all lead to 2 major takeaways regarding which stories we should tell. And let me warn you, you will not be surprised, but it's so important to remind ourselves about this. The first thing, focus on the target audience. And this is not just the cliche, well, listen to your audience. This is like truly listen to the people you have in your target audience, not the persona, but the actual people. Get to know them for real, because they want to learn things that align with their lifestyle, their everyday life, their personalities, their point of view. They want to learn things from you. And try to truly find the person, as I said. What is she thinking? What is she worrying about? What makes her happy or sad? What makes her stay up all night? And how is she spending her time? That's where you'll find stories to tell for real. And there is only one way to do this. I mean, you can do the audits and you can go to the Facebook group, but the best way is to actually talk to your audience. Try to meet people that are in your target audience regularly and ask them, what are your dreams? Where are you? What are you doing? What keeps you up at night? Understand what they're dreaming of, because the audience loves stories that show them what they can become, don't we all? We want to know what choices we can make and the dreams we can have, because everyone wants to improve, everyone wants to be better. Regardless if we're looking for best practices for our job or becoming a better parent or enhancing our football skills, not me, everyone truly wants to improve. So try to find the stories there. How can you help your audience to be better? How can you help the people in your audience to become better people? And everyone wants to dream, even those who will never take the jump or become that better person. They still want to know what their options are. And are there unknown paths? Can you show them something that they didn't know? Can you open a path that they didn't know they could take? You should also dare to challenge them. And remember that these are things that we have seen in the data, because I often get the feedback like, well, we've heard that people just want to see funny memes. And that's true also. But if you really want to build a relationship with your audience, you need to challenge them, because that will build trust. The audience wants content that are challenging norms, myths, or opinions. And this is not just about being provocative for the sake of being provocative. They want you to actually make them think, not just make them angry, not just make them sad. They want you to make them think. That is the content that will stick. That is the content that will create the relationship to you. And also, this type of content does capture their attention, and it will also make them stay. Not just click and say, didn't want to read that, but actually make them stay. How do you do this? Well, the first thing you should do is find that norm you want to challenge, and dare to dig deeper and find that contrarian view and be the person that sticks their noses out and say something different. And in the content, always play the devil's advocate. Help the reader by asking all those stupid questions that they don't want to ask, but they want to know the answers to. Those are two ways to be closer and daring them to challenge, dare to challenge them and help them think. Also, let them see themselves. Find ways to let your audience identify themselves with your stories. And how should you do this? Well, first of all, include someone who knows their world in your content, an expert from their world or a thought leader that they look up to. There are so many ways to include them in your content, but the even better thing is to include them, the actual audience in your stories. Can you talk to customers, followers, raving fans, and include them in their stories so they can recognize themselves? That will be amazing. And as I said earlier, use their words. Quotes from your audience will always trump your quotes. And dare to go close. And here I don't just mean with going close to the person, but actually going close in the space that they are. Because you know how you always say, why does the newspapers just talk about the things that happen here close to us and not about all the bad things that happens on the other side of the world? Well, that's because it's like the principle of closeness. Journalists know that you care more about things that are close to you. And this goes for all content. If you can localize your content, if you can make a person in a city or in a company or in a country feel like, oh, this is close to me, they will love your content more. How do you do this? Well, use local images. I mean, if you've made videos in a tool like Storykit where you easily can version your videos, you can send them out to local offices and make them change the imagery. I know an example from SKF who said that they sent out the Christmas video. And when that Christmas video came around the world, they saw their local offices change the pictures of the snow, because there isn't snow everywhere in the world. at Christmas time. You can change to a local spokesperson. You can adjust your tonality, and you can, of course, translate. So be really close to your target audience. Not just talk about it, be as close as you can. The second thing you should do, and this sounds so stupid, but do good stuff, not bad stuff. And what does this mean? Well, first of all, dare to be on brand. And when we talk about being on brand, we often talk about colors and logos and stuff like that. But that's not what I'm talking about here. This is brand for real. What can you talk about that no one else can? What is special for you? What do you have? And proactive choices will always have a better effect. And once again, let me remind you, this is data telling us, this is not me saying things, this is data telling us that the audience will respond better to content that is proactive instead of reactive, because you are leading the way for your viewer. Dare to think before, don't just go for what you know the audience wants today. Be faster than them. Think of what they want to hear tomorrow. Which problems do you need to solve for them tomorrow? And of course, be thought leading. This is easy to say, hard to be, but try to set the agenda. So pick a side and run with it. And also dare to be clear with the benefits of the content. People are often like, oh, we need to hide the CTA, or we need to like be a bit fluffy about what we're actually doing. Don't be. People want you to be clear. They will love you for that, especially in social. Also, dare to be unique. And this is also so simple to say, but let's look at this. Rewrites don't work. Clickbait is not good. This is data telling us. What everybody else is doing is not something you should focus on if you want real results and an audience that loves you. It comes as no surprise. Generic content won't build any relationships. If you Google 10 ways to whatever, you will find 1,000 other articles about it. So try to find the unique voice in you. Things that are unique to you is always the best. But remember, because this sounds very tough, unique doesn't have to be that every detail is invented in-house. Why you? Oh, every thought is a unique snowflake that no one has thought before. That's difficult. You can borrow lots along the way, but you have to have that unique point of view. Also, dare to be authentic. So be what you are, not what you think you should be. And this is something I talk about a lot. Don't try to be funny if you aren't funny. If your brand isn't the ha-ha dancing on TikTok, don't do that, because the audience will be confused. But if you are serious, or if you are, I don't know, poetic, whatever you are, be that and stick to that, because the audience will know the authenticity if you start dancing on TikTok, even if you don't want to. So by now, we should have some kind of an idea of what stories we should tell. So the second question is, how should I tell my stories? And I'm actually talking so fast that I see that I will probably manage to get through this. Well, first of all, when you tell stories on social, which is what we are doing the best, there are 6 rules that we have realized that you need to follow if you want success. And the first thing is that every post needs to be a complete story. What do we mean with this? Well, first of all, you can't control different posts on social. A mistake that many people still do is like, oh, we're going to create a series of videos or articles or just posts. And we're going to publish them at 9 o'clock every Thursday. And then I hope that people will see them in the right order when we publish them. They won't. Because you have this little problem called algorithms that will decide whether or not people see them in their feed, when they see them in their feed, and they might not even see things in their feed. So if you publish in a fine, super duper order, and the second video you can't understand the second video if you haven't watched the first one. Everything will be just completely impossible to understand for the viewer. So this is why every story has to be complete. Maybe you think, well, I can post them on my Facebook page and they can go there and watch them. No one goes to your Facebook page. I'm sorry to say, but no one goes to your Facebook page. So they are in their feed and they see what the algorithms put there. And if you don't have that in mind, it will be very difficult for the audience to understand your story. Also, being a complete story, if the post is a complete story, it enables the user to stay on the platform. And this is something that the platforms love. So why not let them? It also makes the content much more shareable, because you don't want to share something that is like, oh, read this very, very long article, and after a couple of thousand words, you will get to the point that I'm making. No, try to make the content shareable. And it also makes the post worth engaging with, because people will engage with the post, not the article or the thing that they're clicking on. This is why video is so good for social, because in video, you can make every post a complete story. So that's the first rule when you tell stories on social. The second thing is bring out the big guns early. And this goes for video, of course, but it goes for every type of content. You have just seconds or parts of seconds to catch the viewer's attention. So you must use the distribution post and the title. And people forget this all the time. They're like, oh, I created this amazing content. Let's write something very fast on social and put it out there. Nothing happens. So use the distribution post and the title and make it something that people really want to see, and get straight to the point. This is also connected with the things I was saying about being a clear brand. What do you want them to do? Who are you? This is something they need to understand immediately on social, because you don't have so much time. The third thing you need to think about is on social, if you're out of sight, you are out of mind. You can never settle with one good story on social. You need to keep posting. Why? Because it's a hectic feed and people forget you if you're not there. So if you publish more, you will reach more and they will remember you. As a marketer, a communicator, whatever you are, you always want to be top of mind with your audience. And publishing regularly is one of the keys to that. Also, when you publish stories on social, you should never forget the context that you are entering into. You are always entering into an ongoing conversation. So social platforms are social platforms for a reason. They are talking about something already. When you step in there with your story, they are talking about something already. So think of this as a cocktail party where you're coming in with your story and people are talking about different things. Try to connect with what they're already talking about. Or if you have a really good case, you can also start a new conversation, of course. But remember the context. It can be so wrong on social media. Also, always listen and adjust, because the context may change and then your story might have to change, at least to some aspects. The fifth thing to think about is that the only way to learn to tell social stories is by trying. And I said this in the last webinar too, that to learn what your audience wants from you, you need to start publishing, because you can read books and white papers and articles and stuff about best practice for your industry or for your type of product or whatever, but you will never know what your audience, the actual people in the audience, wants from your company and you until you've started trying. I mean, there can be a slight difference between two people hired in a company. We might have a bit different ways to express ourselves and different things might work. And the only way to know is to try and try again. Also, the audience is changing all the time. The platforms are changing all the time, and you need to keep up with that. The other thing you need to remember is that you will fail, and that's okay. So the good thing about the fast-paced environment is that you will fail. Some things might bomb, some things might just, no one liked it, no one read it. You'll learn and you'll do better the next time, but you won't learn if you don't publish. So learning by doing on social is like one of the most important rules. So the sixth and final rule for publishing stories on social is to dare to repeat yourself. Dare to repeat yourself. And once again, this is because of the algorithms. People might not have even seen your content. And also, if they've seen your content, you need to make it clear and clear and clear what your story is and what your messaging is and what your position is. So the way to do this is to dare to repeat yourself. So give your stories new life, either by creating new posts for a story or a new video or a new way of telling the same story. This is what every successful content person that I've ever seen is doing, is telling the same story over and over again, but in different ways, so that the story gets totally clear. Not repeating your story is such a waste, because you've done the story, you know the story, just repeat it. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is using storytelling techniques and formats, because this is the best jumpstart you can get when you're telling stories on social media or just any story. And the first thing we need to talk about is using known techniques and formats is not cheating, and it will not kill your creativity. So we talk a lot about formats and techniques to help people just jumpstart their storytelling. And we often get the reaction like, but I might have stories to tell that doesn't fit into your format. That might be true. Good. Or isn't that cheating? Or isn't that? No, because quite the opposite. Techniques and formats save time. You will be so much faster as a content producer if you start using known techniques and formats to create at least some parts of your content. They are also proven. You can safely assume that they're really efficient if they're done right. So steal good ideas, hey. And a given structure can even evoke creativity instead of killing it. If I know that I'm going to do case study interviews with my customers, I will start looking for those. I will actively start looking for those, and I will actively start seeing things that I didn't see before I decided on that format. And that will evoke creativity because it will give me new ideas and it will give me new inspiration to do that even better or other things. They also help you keep in mind everything that's important. What do I need to have in this story? What do I need to remember to say? But also they help you to remove all that stuff that's not important, because there are so much things that aren't important in our storytelling. So no, you should use storytelling techniques and formats. So the oldest storytelling format technique that we know was brought to us by the philosopher Aristotle, and he said that the story should consist of 3 parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has evolved since then. So we're going to talk about 2 storytelling techniques, and you can find even more storytelling techniques in the ebook that we will probably be sending out after this, which is a part of Storykit Academy. So 2 storytelling techniques for you today. The first one is 3 acts, or tell it like Steve Jobs. I like Steve Jobs, so let's move on with him. So the first thing he always did, when he had his big presentations and made the whole world gasp over some gadget they had invented, he did this. He had a setup. He introduced us to the existing world and why there was a problem with the existing world and the status quo. Sometimes we could also meet some kind of a hero. It might be a person or a product or just an event. After that came confrontation. This is Act 2. Challenges arise and events forces our hero to solve a number of problems. This seems like a huge amount of storytelling for like a keynote or an ad, but we'll get back to that. And then the resolution. So the hero finally defeats the antagonist or solves the problem, and the world is a better place. How can this look in a simple ad? Well, we made this. Oh, this was very small. So what we say here is that video is the ultimate format for social channels, and Anna loves it. This is the setup. But creating video is time consuming, and she wants to publish video every day instead of once a month. Confrontation, problems arises. Now the resolution. She can, because Storykit gives you video superpowers. Very simple, but follows those 3 acts. Another storytelling technique is PAS. This is from the copy world, and I just love this one. It's problem, agitate, solve. And the steps are, well, problem, agitate, solve. So what you do is first identify the problem, and then you amplify the problem until you make it a bit uncomfortable, and then you solve it. And of course, we tried this too. So video creation is a hustle problem. It's complicated, expensive, it's time consuming, and not worth the effort. Amplifying the problem. Or you could start using Storykit, solving the problem. Gives your organization video superpowers. It's that simple. And as I said, we have 4 more of these in the ebook that you will get access to after this. So please use this, because for me, they amplify my creativity a lot. I will also walk you through 2 formats that we have used. And you can find formats everywhere. Formats and templates to tell stories will help and make your storytelling much more efficient. So the first one was actually a format that our CEO invented. He wanted to do something for his LinkedIn. He's totally not very active on LinkedIn, which I try to nag on him all the time about. But he wanted to do something, and he wanted to do employee interviews, but hey, he doesn't have the time. So he made a super easy format where he made people answer 1 question or maybe 2 and send a picture. And the result was this. Is the video playing? Good. So I don't see the video playing, obviously, but there's first some words telling about Michaela in this case, and then there's a quote from Michaela, and there's an end. So since he had this format, sending out the questions, getting the answers, and putting the video together took him like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The other format is one that I made, because I had this crazy idea one night in my couch at home. I was like, yeah, it's December 1st tomorrow. Maybe we should do a Christmas calendar. And doing 24 videos in 24 days seems like a very stupid thing to start the day before, and it was. But I made up a very efficient format for it so we could do it. So first, as I say, I don't see the video playing, but I'm guessing it's the thing you open. It's called lucka in Swedish. I don't know what they call it in English. And then there's a fact coming, maybe a follow-up, and an end. Very simple. It truly took us like 3 minutes to put every video together when we had gathered all the facts that we wanted to share. So we will talk much more about formats in the 4th Storykit Academy webinar that will be in December, because it's such a good way to be productive. We're talking about production tactics in that webinar, so please join. But I see that we are running out of time. I talked much faster than I thought. But my tip is to get more formats, techniques, tips, tricks, and webinars with Storykit Academy. So storykit.io/academy. You will find the last webinar there, and you will find links to the white papers and ebooks and all of that stuff. So please join. And the next webinar will be, Heidi, do you know by heart?
30th of November.
November 30. So please sign up for that. That will be about script writing, which I love. I love working with words. And now I need to say thank you very much.